There is a time in every team's life cycle where they need to move to a model that has more certainty and predictability, where they can produce consistent product and be able to scale without sacrificing quality or innovation. This is where I can help. My name is Danielle Ramos, and I help teams move from startup mode to where they become repeatable, sustainable, and scalable. This is a story of a project called Creating the Software Development Factory. This project ran over the course of 2 years, and in that time we worked together to create a process and a way of working together that enabled the team's ongoing success. I will walk you through the high-level steps that we took to lift ourselves out of chaos and hopelessness into a position of empowerment and success. Please note that every journey will need its own path, and I freely admit that we did not know the entire path or could not predict the extent of the team's success in the beginning. All of this evolved as we created trust, empowerment, and success over the course of 2 years together. Our first step was to find out what was going on and to inform the new management so that they could create credibility with a broader organization and buy the team time to design their path to success. Once management could represent the team and know enough about what was going on to begin to steer it and manage exceptions, we took our first step in creating forward plans so that we had a common team vision and something to work and manage against. Knowing what we needed to do and where we were in achieving the goals of the individual projects was a huge relief, and so we could focus on quality and predictability. We moved out of the tribal knowledge model and into a model where we had documented, repeatable, and finally sustainable processes. Next, we needed to saturate and extend the team's adoption and start turning its sustainment and improvement over to the team. This then allowed for management to focus on scalability and collaboration with vendors and internal teams and stakeholders. Finally, we arrived at the ongoing refinement stage. I won't pretend this was an easy journey for me, for management, or for the team. What I can tell you is that people went from working 80 hours a week to 40 or 50 hours a week. We were able to achieve predictable results, and the team could focus on working better with outside teams and the stakeholders. The steps I'm going to go through are simple but not easy. In order for the new management to be able to show some success, they first needed to know what was going on. Management had to attend meetings and represent the team, and in the beginning they had no source of accurate and consistent information about how a project was going or even that it was being worked on. Management had to spend their days doing physical surveys to try and put together a picture of what was going on, figure out where they should focus and what they should tell others. Management looked uninformed and worse, incompetent, because they could just not speak to what their team was doing. This had to change. If management looked uninformed and incompetent, then it told others that there was a problem with the team and that the team could not be relied upon to do their part. This needed to be the first point of focus. To address this, we simply created a single source of information and put everything we knew in there. This consisted mostly of what projects we were working on, where they were at. We only were able to do this for a single release ahead in the beginning. This made a huge difference, however. Management and the team members now had somewhere to find out what was going on and the status of each project. As we progressed to the next steps, we augmented this information to the extent that today it is all that management needs to reference to know what is going on, what the risks are, and whether or not we can predict successful delivery. Most people call this a status report, and that is all it really is, but the key is creating it and keeping it current and reliable. Once we knew what we were working on and generally where each project was, it gave us a little time to determine a good planning model. Again, I'm not talking about complex and detailed plans, but rather enough to be able to track and manage a project and for the team to understand what was happening and where they needed to focus. We created a standard milestone chart that factored in not only the team's deliverables, but also their dependencies on other teams. This enabled us to begin talking to others and doing cross-functional planning. We applied the model to all of the in-process projects and added this information to the status report so everyone could see what had been done and what was left to be done and when it needed to be done by. The key here is that it gave us something to manage our projects against. Without a plan, you are just in the let's hope and see what happens model, which is not sustainable or scalable. We were now in a position to do forward planning with cross-functional teams and work not only on the next release out, but several releases out. And we were able to publish and monitor our work plans in advance. With our team now being able to manage our projects and management having the right visibility in to address risks, issues, and exceptions, we're able to move on to document the tribal knowledge about what needed to be done in the different phases and activities for them to be completed correctly. This resulted in a series of checklists that we could use for each project and eventually across the release to ensure that we completed all of the activities for a timely and high-quality delivery. We eliminated most of the emergency fire drills, and we were able to predict success with much more confidence. This also allowed us to bring in additional team members and to help them be much more immediately effective. Once we knew what we needed to deliver and had achieved a 6-month planning model and documented our processes, we were in a good position to bring on new team members and allow them to operate more independent. We created a 2-level release and project level model, and we began to turn it over to the project teams to run on their own, decreasing the need for management oversight. We created a pod model where we partnered a technical PM, a development lead, and a systems analyst to work as a leadership team and assigned developers from a central pool to work on groups of projects within a release. The technical PM was our end-to-end delivery owner and was responsible for managing all of our milestones, dependencies, issues, risks, and interfacing up to the larger enterprise teams. Our development lead was responsible for the detailed code delivery tasks. They provided technical insight and guidance during the design phase, and during the development phase they held the daily development stand-up meetings with our onshore-offshore teams. They also completed the code reviews and ensured unit testing was completed. Our systems analyst was responsible for the functional and technical design with input from the development lead. They were the primary interface to the business stakeholders from a perspective of content delivery. Because we had a pod work together for multiple releases, they were able to establish a solid working relationship and further saturate our repeatable processes. A single pod would normally have between 6 and 10 concurrent projects going out across 2 to 4 releases. To pull it all together and look at the needs across projects or at a release level, we established a release management layer that provides overall governance across the teams. The release manager validates that process is being followed consistently across the projects and manages the release level activities. Release level activities include overall backout planning, consolidated test support planning, deployment activities, and post-deployment support. Because we had established our multi-layer relationship within the team and ensured the system we created had its own governance built in, the management was truly able to just refer to our status reports and release level health reports to do that part of their job. This freed them up to work cross-functionally and strategically. The demand for services was increasing with each release to the extent that we needed to have constant recruitment activities. It also meant that we needed to be able to predict our demand into the future and staff for it with enough in advance that the teams could be successful. We created a staff planning model specifically around the development staff because this is where the greatest fluctuation occurred. Once we had that model, we could predict anticipated demand out over 6 months and identify our staffing gap. We worked with vendors to come up with staff augmentation plans to fill these gaps. Because we had created documented process and some onboarding practices, we were able to bring new staff in and quickly get them up to speed. Between August 2012 and November 2012, our development demand grew by 100% and we needed to double our staffing. Between the November 2012 and the March 2013 release, we needed to double our development staffing again. In addition to modeling our development staffing, we were also able to level work across pods and therefore predict the need for additional pods or technical PMs plus development leads plus systems analysts. Now that we have the foundations of information planning, self-managing teams, and capacity planning, we can focus on refinement. As the year 2012 closes, we have what is now referred to as a software factory, and we know how to deliver product with predictability and with quality. Because everything is in constant flux in today's world, we know that we will need to make constant adjustments to how we do things in order to do the new and different things we will be asked to do. Because we created a foundational and flexible process, we can adopt it to support the changing needs and/or make minor changes to it to allow it to grow with us. We know there are further quality improvements we can make, and we also know that in order to make more of an impact, we need to start working with other teams to extend the factory model to include more and more of the extended delivery system. This has been a real-life experience that I am grateful to have been part of. My role in this process as consultant changed over the course of the project. I was central in documenting the repeatable processes and in working with the team to implement and refine them. I ran the central coordination meetings until those could be handed off to other team members. I initially filled the first technical PM role and later the release management role, which I have since handed off. I created the capacity model and worked with management and our vendor partners to make it work for us. I currently provide oversight over the delivery process and participate in the hiring process along with mentoring team members. My main role has been to work with management and the team and to help them jointly create a way of working that everyone can benefit from and be successful with.